I mean, they gave John 12 to 14 months to live. He worked his butt off in every realm that he could in and actually lived for 3 years. We didn't talk about it because it felt like if you talked about what happens when he dies, you're giving up hope that he's
Yeah.
going to survive. And
Yeah.
so it's this complicated, weird emotion that goes into it. So we didn't talk a lot. While you're grieving is the worst time to figure out those lessons. So doing this whole pre-planning stuff is like so important and like the greatest gift, in my opinion, that you can leave. Like, am I allowed to be happy again? Does that mean I don't miss him? Does that mean, all is well in my world and I'm moving on? No, you still like raise a toast to what you had, but
Yeah.
and honor them by finding joy and happiness again.
This is the Buried in Work podcast, where we share tips and interview experts to help you simplify estate planning and end-of-life tasks.
Pam Baker didn't expect to become a widow in her 40s, but after losing her husband John to glioblastoma in 2021, she faced a reality that many widows know too well, that even with a full estate planning team and all the right documents and quotes, grief has a way of pulling the rug out from under you, and this is a process that is overwhelming, probate's confusing, and despite being married to a financial advisor, you'd think you'd have a leg up. Pam felt lost. So rather than letting fear and feeling define her, she turned her pain into purpose. She launched a really neat initiative called Widows Who Whine, which I think is phenomenal. It's a platform community and app that helps widows rebuild, connect, and even laugh again. And then, because she didn't have enough on her plate, she co-authored a book, Where's the Key to the Safe, with her nephew, who's a financial planner, Cameron Zabko. And it helps people and families prepare before it's too late. She joins us today to talk about what happens when life shatters, how we can prepare better, connect deeper, and support one another through the mess of loss and the hope that follows. Pam, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited too. I think we have a lot of cool things aligned with one another.
Yeah, definitely. Widows Who Whine is a phenomenal brand. The book is witty, it's funny, it's intelligent, it's informative. And you're one of those people similar to me who started after a specific loss. I think there's two types of people in the business. One that's 3 years old and knows from the time they were 3, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And other people who kind of find their purpose. Let's jump into that.
Yeah.
How did you find your purpose? Tell us a little bit about your love story with John and how things kind of evolved to where you are today.
Yeah. So I'll start with the love story part. We met when I was 18 years old. It was a freshman year of my college experience. I grew up in Vermont, and it was way too cold for me there. So I went to college in Florida, and it was a small college. And he walked into campus activities one day, and I was like, dang, who's that? And that was the beginning. And he was a junior. So yeah, we dated for, 8.5 years before we ended up getting married. And then we were married for 24 years. He was, we have 4 kids. They're now 16 to 26, pretty much every 3 years. I kind of got them out of diapers and started over. Got them out of diapers, started over.
Glutton for punishment.
I know. Terrible. And yeah, we ended up we moved to the Atlanta area. He's from DC, and he started his own practice. And yeah, he was just really good at it and built a great business, and everything was going great. And I'll just say 2018, he started getting some headaches. He was super, super, super healthy guy, and got some headaches. And when a client finally told him he should go get looked at, not his wife or his friends told him, we discovered he had glioblastoma. So that started a whole nother chapter. But before that, I will say my oldest 2 have cystic fibrosis. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but basically people think of it as a lung disease, but it affects all of your mucus producing cells. And when they were diagnosed, their life expectancy was 32, and it's genetic. So they were diagnosed essentially at the same time. My oldest was diagnosed, I was already pregnant with the second. And that started our path on fundraising. We'd never done that, and we just jumped in. So we have that personality, I guess. When something happens, we were like, what can we do? First of all, to take our power back in the situation, but also to be a vehicle for good. Like, how can we make a difference? And we became like the number 1 fundraising team in Georgia the very first year. And we never had done a bit of fundraising. And then nationally, we've been the top, if not the top fundraising family across the country for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. But I work a lot in that realm on the national level in leadership roles and really found my voice in speaking, public speaking. So I say that to make the point that I was always a very shy person and didn't really like the limelight. And my husband kind of pushed me to that because the mom story when you're fundraising is
Hmm.
important. And so I look at the CF world as my training wheels for what I'm doing now.
Hmm.
And I feel like the universe, brought this path to me so that when this current situation came along, I had the tools and the skills and the determination, I will say, to then truly morph into what I do look at as my life path, my passion, my purpose, and I feel like I can do it with some degree of success because of my training wheels in the
Let,
previous life.
let me put you on the spot, though. I mean,
Mhm.
John became a financial planner. You would think that you had everything buttoned up, ready to go. Did you not? It sounds like you didn't. What do you think
Yeah,
the mistake was?
it was crazy in retrospect. I mean, they gave John 12 to 14 months to live. He worked his butt off in every realm that he could in and actually lived for 3 years. Two were very healthy. The last year was not so great. But you know what's weird? I don't know if you found this, but I found it a lot in the widow space. You get a diagnosis like cancer, right? So you have all this time to plan and talk. But I found for us, we didn't talk about it because it felt like if you talked about what happens when he dies, you're giving up hope that he's
Yeah.
going to survive. And
Yeah.
so it's this complicated, weird emotion that goes into it. So we didn't talk a lot. It was like every time I tried to, I felt guilty. Like I want to be like, I'm not giving up on you. I know you can do this. I know you can fight this, but it's freaking glioblastoma. Like it's
Hmm.
probably not going to end well.
Hmm.
But it makes that time period having those conversations really hard and complicated. So, when he died, our will didn't even include our last child, first of all. So I swear to God to this day, I'm like, there's no way John Baker didn't have an updated will somewhere. I don't know where it is. Still don't. And didn't know where the key to the safe was, which is
Hmm.
why the title of the book is Where's the Key to the Safe? Because I didn't know. And I couldn't, when I finally found it, I couldn't get into it because it's a
Hmm.
weird safe. And I had to
Hmm.
YouTube it and I'm like, and I kicked myself because I would always say, open the safe, get our passports out. And he's like, you need to learn how to
You
do
do
this.
it.
I was like, no, I don't. I have you.
Yeah.
Well, that was not the smartest way to handle that. So yeah, I learned a lot, a lot of lessons. But the problem is you don't know what you need to know until you know.
Hmm.
And while you're grieving is the worst time to figure out those lessons. So doing this whole pre-planning stuff is like so important and like the greatest gift, in my opinion, that you can leave your loved ones or anybody you have a financial tie to.
It's funny, on the side of our clear kit, we have a note that says, leave your heirs the gift of organization.
Oh,
So,
that is so perfect. That's exactly it. That's
yeah.
exactly it.
So let's talk about that. You're trying to attack the problem from two different sides.
Mhm.
You went through the process, and we've had the story from numerous other guests. I went through it. You went through it. Where,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, it's overwhelming. I don't know what to do. I wish I actually planned and organized a little bit more beforehand than after. Most people go through it, and that's their personal journey. Some people, like yourself, you turned it into an initiative to help other
Mhm.
people, and you have two different initiatives on both sides of the coin. Let's fast forward and shift to Widows Who Whine, and then we'll
Okay.
come back to the book that you guys wrote too.
Yeah.
Widows Who Whine, what is it? It's awesome, and where can I get a bottle?
It is so awesome. And I'm glad that you know that it's wine, WINE, because people are like, you guys sit around and wine? I'm like, no, we sit around and drink wine. That's what we do. And,
My wife said the same thing. So
really?
I told her, oh, I'm talking with Pam later. Who's
Mhm.
Pam? Well, Pam started Widows Who Whine. She's like, Widows Who Complain?
No, I'm always like WINE. I wanted it. So, okay. So when John died, I am a spiritual person. I grew up Catholic, but I just have a problem with a lot of organized religions, but I'm very spiritual. But I tried all the grief support groups. I did all the things, but none of them resonated with me. So ended up doing my grief recovery with actually a she's a life coach, but she's a certified grief counselor and
Hmm.
she's amazing. So I did one-on-one with her, still work with her to this day, actually, not on grief necessarily, just on life. She's like my therapist. But that helped me figure out how to live with this grief in a healthy way. And I feel like I really do. So I was sort of isolated in my recovery because I wasn't going to these groups. I'm just north of Atlanta. So in my town, there's a Facebook page for moms, and there's thousands of women on it. So inevitably, every now and then, there's somebody who pops on and says, my friend just lost her husband. What kind of resources are there? My mom, my dad just died. What kind of resources are there for my mom? And every single time it was those church groups, church. And I was like,
Yeah.
finally, I was like, oh, that's not for everybody. Like there's got to
Mhm.
be something else. And it just came. I just felt so compelled because it was like all of this stuff. So John died in November of 2021, and the Widows Who Whine was born in February of 23. So just over a year. And I was like, there's got to be this whole process of not just surviving, not just sitting in the grief. And that was my other problem with grief support groups. It's like everybody just sits there, and people have been in those groups for years, and they're still like sitting in their grief. Like, what? Where's the part where you move from the grief to the back to the joy, back to living, right? And so that for me became sort of my mission, is instead of just figuring out how to survive, how can we thrive in this next stage? And so I just put something out there. I came up with a name because I wanted
Mhm.
to be like, we're not a grief support group. Of course, we help each other when the grief hits, because it still does forever. Just, you never know. But that's not the point. The point is to have fun and find joy again. So I wanted it to have the wine. My colors are like happy and have all that vibe. So that's kind of how I was born.
Is it national? Is it local where you are right now? How often do people meet? Give us the
Mhm.
details of what to expect if
Yeah.
you
So
if you actually go.
yeah, it's mostly here right now in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area. When
Mhm.
I put it on socials, I said, come over if you're interested. I had no idea if anybody'd show up, and 14 women showed up that night, and we drank wine. And a local wine festival organizer donated 2 cases of wine to us. I was like, perfect, and and that was so good. And so it's grown now. It's over 360 women just in our
Mhm.
area. And so I organize one social event a month. And sometimes, mostly they're fun. Like tonight, we're going axe throwing, and there's all kinds of different things, and candle making, and we're having all kinds. All I try to come up with fun themes. We're doing a friendsgiving. We do Galentine's. We do holiday parties and all that stuff. But what's cool that's happened is I tell the women in the group is like, this is your group. So where do you see your fun and your
Yeah.
passion, and just take it and run with it. So somebody created a book club, and there's widows who dine because there's, women that want to go out to eat at restaurants and they don't want to go by
Okay.
themselves. So we have widows who trivia, we have a cornhole league, we have mahjong, we have all these offshoots that have happened that, you get your people who that's what they really want to do. And so
Mhm.
they grow their own little group within the group that and it's cool because I've seen it evolve so much into to the point that I say I've discovered I'm like, these women are finding their best friends. They're finding the best friends they never knew they needed, but you have such a shared experience that connection's there, and it's just kind of easy. It's easy to connect with people from a shared experience point of view. It's
Yeah.
really cool. So and to point to the national part, I saw very early on because people were reaching out. Is there something like this in Philly? Is there something like this in
Mhm.
LA? And so I was like, how do I do this on a national level? And that's where the app has come in. And so I worked with a company to help me develop this app. And so it's in app stores. I don't love it yet. It's not like
Mhm.
I probably could tweak it forever, but that's the concept, is to take it. And so I can't be in all those places. We need like what I'm working on right now actually is I'm working with a branding company and building my whole brand out. And
Yeah.
what they're suggesting is basically creating chapters and then
Yeah.
literally like hiring people like me to run those chapters.
How does it pay for itself then? Are the widows paying for each event? Like there's a $5 service fee to come and have trivia just for self-organizing?
Yeah, so that's a huge concern, right? Because
Mhm.
a lot of widows are not in the best financial situation, and that
Mhm.
often happens. So I'm very conscious of, I host a lot of things in my own home, or people who live
Mhm.
in, there's a woman who lives in one of the 55 and up communities. She has a great community center. We reserve that space, so I try really hard to keep it really
Lean.
cost effective. Yes, but that's what I'm working on now is corporate partners
Mhm.
to sponsor events so we can do bigger, better, cooler things and not put the burden of the cost on the women. And you don't want that to hold anybody back. And so that's where I'm gonna put my efforts into now. But right now it is like if we, tonight axe throwing when we get there, we reserved a space, people pay for their
Hmm.
spot and we go and get drinks there. But it's pretty amazing because the ones that are like hosted at home, I'll put snacks or I'll start with bottles, but it's like we have more bottles when they leave.
When they leave than what you
Because
started
it's a
with.
bunch
Yeah.
of women, so everybody's really well fed and well hydrated.
I want to
So
come.
it's amazing. It's so good.
I'm not a widow, but it sounds like a good time. I'm in.
It's really good. That's one thing that's intimidating when you have new people come because they walk in the door and they just hear like roaring
Laughter.
laughter and they're like, "Am I in the right place? This is a bunch of widows." And I'm
But
like,
that's the
"Yeah."
thing. Just because you're a widow doesn't mean that you can't enjoy life
Mhm.
still.
Exactly, and you should enjoy life, but again, it's one of those complicated emotions. It's
Hmm.
times where, like, am I allowed to be happy again? Does that mean I don't miss him? Does that mean, all is well in my world and I'm moving on? No, you still you still like raise a toast to what you had, but
Yeah.
and honor them by finding joy and happiness again,
Hmm. Yeah. All right. So if you are a sponsor that wants to find out more, if you want to open up a chapter, go to widowswhowine.com. You can
Mhm.
connect with Pam there. You can also learn a little bit more about where's the key to the safe. So you talk
Mhm.
about the book that you wrote, and I cannot tell you how many times we have heard the story from people. My father says that I have the key to the safe. My dad would tell my mom, Joan, Adam knows where everything is. He's going to take care of everything. It's in the office. But the reality is that just because you have an organization in your mind doesn't mean that that's the same organization that somebody else has. Like
That's right.
my dad would literally say, "Oh, that file cabinet, second cabinet down, 3 files back, that's where it is." That is completely different from me. I have no idea where that is.
That's right.
So you created the book,
Mhm.
Where's the Key? And it's to help people get organized before they need to, or does it also span the
Mhm.
gap of what to do after somebody dies?
Yeah, it covers everything from, whether or not you have enough car insurance and
Mhm.
life insurance, umbrella policies, all those things, all the way like how to prepare to take care of your family the best way in case the worst happens, to where are the passwords, to who are the handyman. It's like that your box. It's how do you who are the service people? What are the bills? How much cash flow do you need?
Mhm.
In case of loss, how to set up beneficiaries properly, co-owners on credit cards, to planning for the celebration of life.
Mhm.
Because again, you just like you said, you could think that everybody knows exactly what you would prefer for your celebration of life. But if it's not written down, I have my own personal experience with this, there's gonna be division, let's say. So you have to put everything clearly down, like your wishes, what who gets what when you die, like not
Mhm.
things that are like personal jewelry, actually, can all be in your estate plan, of course, but make sure that stuff is written somewhere and it's not just assumed that everybody knows what you would like.
And you go into details, the probate pitfalls, how to find lost assets,
Mhm.
widow's tax, like all the stuff that you'd expect, which is great. Go over to the book. You can get it online. Widowswhowine.com. There's a link on the top of the site.
Uh-huh.
It'll take you to another site also,
Yep.
lastinglegacyconsulting.com. But let's talk about the real stuff.
Mhm.
So you're married to John. He's saying everything's totally fine. He passes away. You had some time to talk about some things, and like everybody, you can't talk to everything about everything. What were some of those most surprising things that you didn't know about estate planning, even with John, who's a financial
Uh-huh.
advisor as your husband? What did you miss? What surprised you?
Oh, let's see. I'll tell you, one of the things that is an oversight that was super frustrating is my car. I went to sell my car like a
Hmm.
year and a half after he died, and I couldn't sell it because it
Why?
was titled in his name
Hmm.
and not so I could sell it, but it just took all the extra stuff. It was my car, but he bought it. And so I was a stay-at-home mom. I'm grateful for that. I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. And so a lot of times that things were just in his name. So all of that, like not thinking ahead to put me as a co-owner. I mean, all the beneficiary stuff, of course, was like that. But those
Hmm.
weird little things like credit cards where, maybe I'm an authorized user instead of a co-owner and I now can't use that credit card anymore. because he's gone.
And you lose the points. They
Yeah.
cash out in a weird way, or you lose access to it
Yeah,
entirely. Yeah.
totally. Yeah, so all weird things like that. One of the things that was Georgia specific that was really annoying, I think it's Georgia specific, but again, stay-at-home mom, I had I had nothing, obviously. I wouldn't say obviously because I would think it'd be obviously, but I didn't, there was no, child services called against me for any kind of thing, but I still had 2 of my kids were still minors. And so in Georgia, I had to, and I don't know if this is regardless of what our estate plan said, but I had to have some stranger go on my behalf to probate court to, and of course I had to pay for that, to prove that I was capable of taking care of my children, that I had been a stay-at-home mom for. And that's just in my opinion, that's a government money grab. That's what that is.
That's your out though. You could have gotten down to 2 kids instead.
I know.
And pick the 2 that you like. Hopefully it's the older ones.
That's right. I already had 2 launched. It could have been out.
Yeah. Empty nester suddenly.
Yeah. The other thing that is really weird that just popped into my head is Social Security, right? I was 50 when my husband died, and I'm not in any great rush to get married again. That's not, if it happens, it happens, right? But I refuse to get married before I'm 60, because if I get married before I'm 60, all of John's hard-earned Social Security money goes away. I don't get it anymore. That's another government grab that makes me crazy. Like, what I mean?
Hold on, I'm going to push back on that. If you get married and the individual that you're marrying has been paying into the system, then you would get access to their benefits as well. So it's sort of like a trade-off then.
It is a trade-off. But to me, I'm like, John earned all that money. Okay. And I don't want his hard-earned money to go to wherever it goes.
Nothing. Yeah. Potholes and other things.
Yeah. I honestly, thankfully, John set us up very well financially. I don't need that little Social Security check.
But he earned it.
But he earned it, and I'm not giving it to somebody else. And it just makes me so annoyed that, if I happen to fall madly in love and I want to get married, I'm like, nope, sorry, got to wait till I'm 60 and a half or whatever the age is. I just think these things are crazy that you just don't know about until you're in it.
Yeah. All right, so those are the lessons that you learned. You had a few surprises that you walked through. Did you do it all on your own? Did you involve other people? What was your go-to as you figured things out?
Yeah, thankfully, because John owned his own financial planning practice, so I had his whole team. And before he died, because we had a business continuation plan, we had actively interviewed we chose the person to buy his practice from him. And so I worked with him as more of a transition of the clients, because, your clients are like your family. So making sure the clients were good with that. But because my nephew, who is a CFP, worked for John, he was with me through all of the whole process. But also my brother-in-law is a very savvy entrepreneurial businessman. So, and he helped John too, as we were, the final stages of the business continuation plan. John wasn't necessarily doing well. And because his brain cancer, he wasn't always thinking well. So my brother-in-law was our, a lifesaver in that. So basically I had my brother-in-law and my nephew really right there by my side the whole way, guiding me through. And one of the things that was really hard for me, honestly, is John did well. And I was a stay-at-home mom, so I had no income. And so even though he left us in a really fortunate situation financially, I was like, I could live for 40 more years.
What do I do?
I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, I do all the things I'm going to live to be 120. So I could live a way long 60 more years. How am I going to make all this last? Like right now, it feels like a lot. But what if the markets crash? What if all the what ifs? It's like that scarcity mentality that was my biggest struggle, honestly, where I felt so anxious and panicked for probably a whole year, maybe longer, until Cameron and my brother-in-law sat me down. They're like, look, here's the worst case scenario. You're still going to be fine. And it took me a while just to feel comfortable in that space where, you think about your kids. I have 2 kids with cystic fibrosis. I have, 4 kids. I have weddings. I have all the things, that your brain just spins. My brain spins, maybe not everybody, but my brain spins a lot.
It's good brain. It happens.
Yeah. So I had a lot. That was one of my biggest emotional obstacles, was really trying to wrap my head around managing the estate, let's say, for the long term.
Did you have any triggers? I mean, for me, when I was getting on calls with people, I'm so sorry for your loss. Before we talk, I'm so sorry for your loss. I hate that. No, you're
Mhm.
not. You're not. I mean, you're a company, you're a customer service agent. I know you have to say it, but
Yeah.
I wish there was like an option one to skip the pleasantries and get straight to business. Press
That's right.
one
That's
to
right.
have a bullshit conversation about how
Oh
we
my
really care
god,
about
yeah.
you. Press two. Yep.
Yeah, my biggest trigger, and I talk about this all the time, and it's the I'm gonna do it. "How are you?" It's that. The head tilts, the
Yeah. The
lilting
crackling of the
voice,
voice.
the
Yeah.
"How are you?" I'm like, "Oh my god, if one more person says that to me, I'm gonna punch them in the face."
I'm a
Like,
lot worse now. Thank you very
yeah,
much.
thank you. I'm great. How do you think I am? This is amazing. It's amazing time of life. Yeah.
And at the
So,
same point in time, like, people just don't know what to say,
I
and
know.
it's sometimes better to say something than not, so I
I
understand,
know.
but, just stop it.
I know, and I tell people because people will ask me, like, "What am I supposed to say?" I'm like, "I don't know, honestly," because they could say something to me, and I'd be like, "That's the perfect thing to say." They could say it to you, and you'd be like, "I'm gonna kill you for saying that," you know? So, because grief obviously is so individual, and your previous
Mhm.
experience brings that to the table too, like, your own background, so who knows? I mean, it's impossible,
Uh,
honestly.
so let's flip that question then. We know the "How are you?" The head tilt is not great. What else should people not say?
This is really people always ask you, like, "What can I do? What do
Mhm.
you need?" And no one's gonna say, "I need you to go to the dry cleaner, pick up stuff that's still there because
Mhm.
it's been there since he died. I need you to go." They're not gonna say that, so to me, it's much better to say, "I'm gonna go, give me a list of all the things that you haven't been able to check off your list.
Yeah.
Give it to me, I'm gonna go take care of it."
Mhm.
Like, be specific, like, I'm gonna go pick up your kids today, and I'm gonna take them to dinner so you don't have to think about what they're gonna eat. I'm gonna go," like, just own something. Don't say,
Mhm.
"What can I do?" Because almost always, you're like, "No, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good." You know? Own it. Just take it. Go do
Yeah,
something.
the specificity of an
Mhm.
offer to help in a time when people are clouded and don't really know what they need
Mhm.
because there's so many things to focus on is
Mhm.
tremendously helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Even say, "I'm gonna book you a massage because
Mhm.
you need to just chill the F out right now and have some self-care," There's so many. There's so many, but that specific, like, "Here's what I'm going to do for you," not, "What
Yeah.
do you need me to do?"
Yeah. And so you've seen both sides of the coin. You've probably built relationships now with hundreds of widows across the
Mhm.
Atlanta area. What's the biggest misconception people have about widows?
I say it's like the old-fashioned view of what the widow is. It's
Mhm.
that little old lady sitting on the rocking chair, wrapped in her Afghan. Like, this is like, I have my
Mhm.
last couple years left, and I'm just happy I had my life with my man. That's not it. The widows in our group, we have 40 years old up to 90
Yeah.
years old, honestly. And it's the, I say, outdated, antiquated view of who a widow is.
Mhm.
So this whole, like, widowhood happens at the end of your life for most of the people I know, it's happening in the middle of your life. You're still raising your kids, you're still working, you're still doing all these things. You're not like a retired, you've had your golden years and, you know, riding off into the sunset. It's like life is still big and happening and busy and crazy. And you're trying to navigate all of that while also figuring out how to be a single parent and how to, find
Mm.
joy again and live your best life again. But the best life part is never expected. You're still just expected to sort of be in that survival, not the thriving aspect. So I think that's just an outdated view of what we are, and women just live longer. So I am determined because I'm like, so many women are like, "Oh, it's not going to happen to me. That won't happen. Nobody thinks it's going to happen to them." But I'm I'm pretty sure almost every woman will end up being a widow. Like, you're
Well,
going to be at some point.
the stat in America right now, and obviously this can change as the boomers age out,
Mhm.
is that women who are married are outliving their male husbands by 5.8 years.
Mhm. Yeah.
Not obviously, you're unique just like everybody else, but the
Yeah.
stat is 5.8 years. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just gonna happen to most of us. So why are there no resources in place to help
mhm.
women thrive? Why are widows still like in the shadows? Why are we're not like we're whispered about. We're not, a part of Gen Pop because we're a widow now, you know?
Yeah. Do you watch what's the name of the show on The Gilded Age on HBO Max?
I have not. I haven't
Oh,
haven't watched it yet, but I keep hearing about it, so I guess I need to.
it's a great show. It's set back in the golden age,
Mhm.
robber barons, trains across America, early New York, like early 1900s, late 1800s, something like that. I don't remember the exact date. But it's when society is coming up, and there's a plot line that if you're divorced, you can no longer be part of society because you're bad, right?
Ugh.
And this is what the culture was back then,
Mhm.
the Norse traditions. And that changed. I don't want to give away the plot, but we can see today, if you're divorced,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't matter. You can still do
Yeah.
whatever you want. I think that we need to flip the switch on that narrative of widows as well. And
Mhm.
you're right. If you're in your 30s, if you're in your 40s, and your 50s, 60s, I mean, 60s are the new 40s, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
Well, life is
Mhm.
different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
and
what we
I'm
know.
gonna venture to guess, because I haven't watched that show yet, are the divorced men still allowed to participate in society, or is it just the divorced women?
Well, it's a good question. It's pretty much the women. The divorced men are
Mhm.
probably out, having
Getting
fun.
remarried and doing
Yeah.
whatever they want. Yeah.
Yeah. Double
Mhm.
standards.
Yep.
Fun, isn't it?
Yep.
All right. So, last question of the day. What's something that we should have talked today about, but we didn't?
Oh my god. Boy, I don't know. I feel like there's so much. There's so many things. Well, we can say I'm so happy to be on your podcast and learn
Thank you.
and see all the things that you do. And I mentioned before we got on that I'm launching my own podcast, and
Yeah.
it's that place to archive a love story, That's I'm calling it the lost love stories, and I think that I've learned that when someone dies, you're not really allowed to talk about the reality of them anymore. They're
Mhm.
sort of on a pedestal, and they, have this, godlike status. And my husband was awesome, but sometimes he wasn't awesome. And, so it's like you're not allowed to talk about the real stories anymore. So this podcast is for the real stories. Like, we were going to talk about the love story, but also the real story. But then with a focus on, like, how do you move beyond that grief? How do you live with the grief? Because again, I think grief is probably always a part of you.
Mhm.
But how do you move through that and get to the other side and be happy and find joy again? There's not a lot of focus on that. And at least in my experience with widows, on getting back to joy. And
Yeah.
and this isn't a podcast just for widows. It's for anybody who's lost someone. And I was telling you, my first guest is my 23-year-old who lost his best friend in a snowboarding accident 6 months before my husband died. So he had two major losses in a very short time. And just like, that's my whole point in it, is it's a storytelling, it's authentic, it's raw, but it's also like giving hope that if you're not finding your way back to joy yet, that is possible if you've lost someone.
Pam, you have Widows Who Work. You've got the book. You've got the Lost Love Stories now. I think you need to create a fourth series of educating people how to find that 26th and 27th hour in the day. Because clearly
I
you
know.
have figured out some tricks of organization.
Hmm.
Pam, your story reminds us that planning is not just about money. It's not just about paperwork. It's actually about people. It's about love. It's about connection.
Mm.
And it's about leaving behind that clarity and organization for the people
Yes.
that are in your life when they need it most.
Hmm.
If people want to find you, Widows Who Whine is the best spot to find it. Yeah.
Yeah, widowswhowine.com. There's a little contact me if anybody has any questions about anything. And, so we have our Lasting Legacy Consulting, which
Mhm.
is the workshops and the book and stuff I do with my nephew. But either website will lead you to the other. They're sort of interconnected. So Widows Who Whine is probably the easiest one to remember. Yeah, and I'm everywhere. I'm on all the socials, Facebook and LinkedIn and all the things too. So yeah.
Sounds good. Pam, appreciate the
Mhm.
time today.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Buried in Work podcast. Remember, you can save 10% on our estate preparation package and games with code podcast10 at buriedinwork.com.